Good afternoon, folks. We're going to bring to order the February 11th, 2020 docket for the BMZA. Initially, I want to ask that you all please turn off your cell phones and keep talking to a minimum. The proceedings are being recorded by audio and visually as well. If you have to have a discussion, please step out through the hallway to do so. The board will vote on each case and make a decision at the end of today's docket. You're free to stay to observe that process. Otherwise, you can call the BMZA office tomorrow morning after 9 a.m. Number is 410-396-4301. Again, 410-396-4301. In any event, you should receive your resolution in the mail within about 30 days from today. We ask that you not do any work until your resolution is received, and of course, do not do any work in Baltimore City without pulling the proper permits. Don't have any postponements presently on the docket, but we do have a couple of cases with some posting issues, so that may result in a postponement or two. I'll just make a statement regarding any case in which there is opposition. If you haven't had an opportunity to speak with the opposing party, I want to give you that opportunity to do so across the room. If you signed in for opposition and you haven't had an opportunity to speak and you would like to, we do encourage it. It can shortcut the time that you spend here, and it can, as its purpose is, help you reach a resolution. Since I have the floor, is there anybody who is here in opposition to a matter and has not had an opportunity to speak to the applicant? You could stand if you so desire. Okay, stand up if you would. Just stand in place where you are. What is the property for which you're here? 2020-07, 2325 Utah. Mr. Prettle? These are folks here, your opposition. You're welcome to have a discussion if you like. Perhaps you can reach some consensus. Great. Anyone else? All right. Moving on. This instruction will apply to most of you because most of you are not here on consent. But when I do call your case, please come up. To the extent there's any opposition can come up. We will swear both sides. We will hear any staff reports, and then we will hear from the applicant. If there's opposition, we'll hear from the opposition. And finally, we would hear from the applicant once more, and that would be the presentation. But prior to that, we have a consent docket, and those are cases for which the board believes it has sufficient information to grant the request. When I call those cases, I'd like you to line up to my left. Down this side, we will again have you sworn in, get any staff reports, and resolve your matters. Those cases are as follows: 2020-03, 104 East 20th Street. 2020-10, 912 Stoll Street. Stand right here. You'd be first, and the other folks will follow you in turn. 2020-11, 1608 Jackson Street, Steve Strohecker. 2020-12, 1735 South Charles Street, John Bolster. 2020-13, 215 East Ford Avenue, also Mr. Bolster.
Everybody raise their right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, calling the case of 2020-03, 104 East 20th Street. Nathan Gertner, you step in front of the mic, please. Sir, this is a request to use the premises as 3 dwelling units. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
All right. Do we have any staff reports?
Yes, Martin French for the Baltimore City Planning Department. Planning Department has reviewed this application and has no objection to its approval.
Very well. Mr. Gertner, is there anything you'd like to add to your application?
Nope, everything's pretty standard, I think.
I'm sorry?
No, I think everything was covered, yeah, thank you.
Very well. Well, the board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you. Have a great day. Case number 2020-10, 912 Stall Street. Vince Edwards and Patricia Lee?
Yes.
Okay, folks, this is a request to use the premises as 2 dwelling units. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do we have any staff reports?
Again, Planning Department has reviewed this application and has no objection. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Folks, do you have anything you'd like to add to your application?
No, thanks.
All right. Well, the board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you. Case number 2020-11, 1608 Jackson Street. Mr. Strohecker? Okay, sir, this is a request to construct a second-floor overhanging rear addition with a rooftop deck. Is that correct? Do we have any staff reports?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Strohecker, is there anything you'd like to add to your application? No. All right. Well, the board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bolster, case number 2020-12, 1735 South Charles Street. This is a request to construct a 2-story rear addition with a rooftop deck?
Yes.
All right. Do we have any staff reports?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
All right. Is there anything you'd like to add to your application, Mr. Bolster?
thank
All right. Well, the board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. While you're here, case number 2020-13, 215 East Ford Avenue. Also, request to construct a second-floor overhanging rear addition, correct? All right. Any staff reports for this property?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
All right. Is there anything you'd like to add to this application?
No, sir.
All right. Well, the board, having heard your appeal, I believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great day. That concludes the consent docket. We'll turn to our regular docket. Calling the matter of 2019-427, 1835 Walbrook Avenue, also known as 1919 North Monroe Street. Antoine Newton. Sir, are you who?
Antoine Newton.
Okay. Were you here before with the prior matter?
I wasn't here. My business partner was.
Okay. We've had a couple people who we thought identified themselves as Antoine Newton, but you are Antoine Newton.
Yes.
All right, well, welcome. Is there a request to use a rear portion known as 1919 North Monroe Street as an office tag and title service? Is that correct?
Yes.
Sir, come on up. Good afternoon. Can you identify yourself for the record?
My name's Michael Stefanos. I'm an investigator with the Motor Vehicle Administration.
Michael Stefanos, can you spell that?
Stefanowitz, Stefanowitz.
Okay.
Can you both raise your right hands, please? You swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I did.
Mr. Newton, we first have to address an issue of a posting notice. Council could tell us what that issue is.
So after this case was rescheduled, our office issued you a new posting notice to show that you put up a new sign saying when the new time and date was. We never got that affidavit back saying that that happened.
I have had with me. I did forget about it. I was supposed to bring it in, but I have it.
Well, you have what, sir?
The affidavit.
Okay. Is it signed?
No, it's not signed.
Did you post the property?
Yes.
On what dates did you post the property?
That date of January 15th, I posted it.
I'm sorry?
January 15th.
What is the additional information that we had with the posting? So we didn't get the affidavit.
We did not get the
That's
affidavit.
the issue. And we're required to have affidavits to confirm that posting has occurred. Otherwise, there's a failure of notice.
And did you post the property yourself, or did your business partner, the guy who was
posted
here
it
last time?
myself.
Okay.
What is the, just so everybody it's clear for everybody in the room, what is the requirement under the rules and regulations for the submission of the affidavit?
So typically, we require the affidavit to come in 48 hours before the hearing. If we don't receive it, it's up to the board. The board can dismiss the case, and you'd have to refile. The board can also just postpone the case, and then by postponing it, you'd have to, again, put up a new posting and get us that affidavit. Because the point of the posting is so that people are aware when the hearing is and have a chance to show up. And so we need that affidavit to show that that was done.
Okay. Give me 1 second. How do you feel about this? Do you wanna? Because he doesn't have any affidavit. Because it's a posting issue, we would normally continue it. Thank you. Yeah, I guess he's been here. He wants to speak. Yeah, it's a question. Question for you.
I think it has to be all together because it's a postponement, not a continuance. So I would say it has to be all together.
Yeah, you can't bring it up.
Okay.
What's the verdict?
Well, it's one or the other.
Yeah.
And take some testimony. It's not. Continue the matter.
So we're gonna we can call it a continuance. For the front. Say that it's a continuance. And then
Okay.
Okay, so formally we call it a continuance.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, he's gonna have to post again.
we would have to post again, for sure.
So here's the issue. Procedurally, we can't move forward with the matter completely because we didn't have the affidavit when the affidavit is required to be presented. So you will have to repost for the required amount of time. Gentleman here has been here at least once before, and we do not want to keep inconveniencing him for that reason. So, hold on, sir, 1 second. We can take testimony from this gentleman so that he can put on the record what he wants to provide.
Very simply, sir, for zoning matters, for the zoning city, we have no objection
Okay.
to it being zoned for his office at all.
Okay,
Who is we?
The Motor Vehicle Administration, the investigators there.
got it.
We have no objection to this gentleman being issued his zoning.
Okay, okay. Well, then formally, I think we need to postpone the matter. Again, if you can post, get that affidavit in as per the rules, repost it, get the affidavit in evidencing that that's been done. But we do need that 48 hours before the next, before the date to which you're assigned.
Understand.
Thank you, sir.
So
Thank
our
you for
office will
coming in.
issue you a new, call us, we can issue you a new posting notice. You can call or come in.
Okay.
Because the dates and times are gonna change.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Yes, he resolved it. Calling the case of 2019-430, 2605 Talbot Road, Sydney Clifton. Ms. Clifton?
Yes.
Okay. Could we, I'm sorry, this is a request to use the premises as a cultural facility, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. We swear the witness, please.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, do we have any staff reports for this property?
Yes. First, we have a letter dated February 5th, 2020, from the Windsor Hill neighborhood. They write, "Our general membership meeting on January 27th, 2020, by unanimous vote, the Windsor Hills neighborhood has determined that we would remain neutral on the above request." That's what they said.
Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property is a property listed on the Maryland Registry of Historical Places. The Planning Department is recommending approval of the application. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Clifton, can you tell us about your project?
So 2605 Talbot Road is the house I grew up in. My family was there from 1969 through 1979-ish. My mother was Lucille Clifton, the poet laureate of Maryland from 1979 to 1984. This is the house where her career really took off, and where both my parents were advocates and mentors to young artists. Two things that my parents always said was, my mom's quote is, you cannot create what you cannot see. And my parents also said, always leave a place better than you found it. I have since moved to California. I'm an animation producer. I've been nominated for an Emmy. I've been a mentor to young artists. But I always think about my home. I bought the house last year on the 9th anniversary, when I found out it was for sale on the 9th anniversary of my mom's passing. It went on the market that day. I decided to buy it and went and walked through the home and felt the same energy of art and mentorship and the integrity of the neighborhood that day. And I decided that this would be something that would honor my parents' legacy and also maintain the integrity of what Windsor Hills was to us. So my thought is to create workshops for young artists and writers, and to also create virtual workshops, but in a manner that, again, maintains the integrity, which means we would not have hours of operation. We would not be open from 10 to 5. This is something that would be specifically scheduled, and the neighbors would be involved in the scheduling. We want to be not disruptive, but we want to be absolutely a value add to the neighborhood, much the way it was when I grew up there. So that's the plan.
Great. Okay, any questions from the board?
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
It was.
Good project. Calling a matter of 2020-05, 29 through 31 West North Avenue, Greenhouse Project LLC.
Hello, my name is Hyeong Park, known as Christine.
I'm sorry, hold on, ma'am. Can you move that microphone towards your mouth there? And now start again. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me be here to do a presentation to all of you. My name is Hyeong Park. I am the representative. Yes.
Spell your name so he can take it, and
Okay.
then we're going to get you sworn before you get it.
That's Hekyong. Last name P as in Paul, A.K.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And before you go forward,
Sure.
this is a request to use the premises.
Hyeong.
This is a request to use the premises for mixed use. First floor is retail, second and third floor is 8 dwelling units.
Yes. Yes.
All right, could you swear the witness, please?
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And do we have any staff reports?
Yes, Planning Department has reviewed this application, finds it is consistent with the urban renewal plan for the Charles North revitalization area, and is recommending approval of the appeal. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French.
Mr. Chairman, we also received an email from the president of the Charles North Community Association this morning, saying that an MOU was in process. It never quite finished. There were some discussions. I do have a copy of the, first draft of that MOU if the board, because he did submit it, if the board wants to look at that, because that will also become part of the file.
Understood. Do you have a copy of that MOU with Charles North Community?
Actually, I have a copy with all these red line marks from my side. And so, but you know, the community and I have a good relationship. I visited them couple of times prior, and the building has been vacant for a while because we wanted to do something that was consistent with the development of the area. We had a lot of calls for carryouts and liquor stores, and we just felt my father had the building for a long time, and he felt it wasn't something that the community would be happy about. And so at the end, what we decided to do was create something that would be very friendly, not just to the neighborhood, but people who are, young students who are artists. We are right near MICA and also University of Baltimore. But when the students, because I've been in that situation too, when you graduate from college, it's difficult to get a job and have an office for yourself and a apartment as well. So we wanted to create something that young people can come and use it as their apartment, but also as a work studio. There's new places right on across on Maryland Avenue and right behind our building. They're all efficiencies. Ours is a large apartment dwelling units where they can actually work. And so this is a little bit different than what's coming up available right there. And also the one that is approved that's across on Maryland, actually they do not, on Maryland Avenue, excuse me, let me just, I wanted to give the board, because this would make everything more clear as to what I'm going to say.
Thank you.
It's all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Easier as you look at the property. Historically, it has been, it's like 120 years old, and it doesn't have parking. And it can't even have parking because only access you can get to the courtyard to my building, which is 19-20, that's 2931, is a 5-foot alley. Right. There is a, from 2224, the owner of the lot has effectively blocked off the whole his space with a fence, so no one actually can really effectively go through except just walk through the alley. And there is a structure that's been in place for last, God knows, I don't know, very long, right against the fence. So it's not possible for any cars to pass through that alley. It's only 5 foot. And so I circled that area, and the zoning, as what I could see, was under 16403. If you're going to have an access through the alley has to be at least 15 feet, and we don't have that. That's one of the infeasibilities of having a off-street parking. Recently, the board has approved 101 Maryland Avenue for 52 units. It's a new building developed, but you guys have given them a waiver
Sorry, could you speak up a little?
Sure. Waiver to parking for 52 efficiency units. And so ours is not anything that's new. We're totally renovating the inside, but we're not doing any additions or alterations. And we would absolutely love to have something like this for the community, because I think it would be great for new artists coming up. And new law students, maybe they want to have law offices there too and work, live there. So that is the kind of thing that we're talking about. This we have it in plan. Now we have this. We filed this thing like a year and a half ago. At that time, we weren't aware there was a zoning issue, and we pulled all the possible permits possible. It got approved. There's only we got fire sprinklers recently approved. We got mechanical, everything. So we're waiting just for zoning, and I think the community, I think we'll be happy to have us open something there. And other than that, I think there's something I was very interesting, because around the area, because
I'm sorry, I don't mean. Oh well, I
Sure.
do mean to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I hate when people say I don't mean to interrupt you, because I do. According to your application, the first floor is retail. What retail space are we talking
I
about?
think right now, at this time, it's not absolutely certain, but I think it's going to be more retail, more like offices. We'd love to have like art galleries, something around that area. In the event if we ever have something more than that, I think that's something that we'll talk to the retail people and see if they need parking. We need to arrange something then. But at this time, we are not going to have something that's we're going to have massive people sitting down on restaurant spaces or anything like that.
Okay, that was going to be my next
Yeah.
question. Not a deli, not a carryout, not a.
No, I think we're going to go for offices at this time, and I think maybe in backspace, maybe if no offices, have some sort of a maybe some sort of like maybe another dwelling units, but I doubt that. I think it's going to be right now we're sticking more to office type of place at that time.
Okay, now let me direct this to staff.
Sure.
For the benefit of the record, with regard to this particular property, understand there is an issue or a special, I don't know, exemption, whatever, with regard to parking for buildings that are older than 50 years?
Yes, so under 16601F, you don't have to provide parking if the structure is over 50 years old, if historically it didn't provide parking. So this is for existing structures, obviously, and if you lack sufficient space to accommodate parking, but that you go to the director, that waiver is done by the planning department.
Okay. And that is something you can address with planning. Mr. French, you can weigh in if you'd like.
Just for the record again, the position of the previous planning director was that if there was going to be any other type of action by this board, whether it would be a conditional use approval or another type of variance, then the parking variance should be granted by the board as part of the total decision on that particular application. But only if the parking variance was the only thing required, then the planning director would sign off, would consider an approval waiver.
Very well.
And that is the case here, where we're
Very well, we're
only
only seeking
looking
the
at the parking.
And Mr. Chairman, just to clarify on the uses for the property, Ms. Pak, just so that you're aware that because those uses are not described here, if they require further review, they would have to come back for separate permits.
Yeah, that's fine.
So if it was offices or other types of more specific uses, this appeal, if the board decides to grant the appeal, would provide a waiver for parking. But if those future uses trigger more parking requirements or further review, that would require additional permits, either by right or by conditional use by this board.
Okay.
What's the status of the MOU?
My understanding is that the parties were in discussions and that the MOU was not signed. The board certainly has the authority to impose conditions on its own. The board can incorporate a signed, executed MOU, or it can take certain provisions from an MOU piecemeal out and apply those provisions. There are several provisions in the draft MOU dealing with lighting and security cameras that this board has typically imposed upon properties. There are other provisions that are more specific to that neighborhood association that zoning really wouldn't have control over. But the board could certainly review the draft MOU and impose any conditions that it felt would mitigate any potential harms from this type of mixed-use development.
I personally would like to see a signed MOU.
I was just about to ask when you expected to have this MOU signed.
I think with I did some draft in the first. I think the problem there is not the lighting or the zoning concerns. That's not the problem that I have. I have neighbors who loiter and litter with McDonald's cups and all. I don't like car bumpers thrown right on the back of the alley at my property and over the fence. Mm-hmm. I've been cleaning that. My suggestion to the neighbor was this, not that I would really like to have some sort of like a block fund that would not.
I'm sorry, could you please speak?
Sure.
into the-
I would like to have some sort of a block fund where we pitch minimum amount, like $30 a month. We hire somebody to make sure it stays clean. They cut the grass and do all these things.
You need to speak up.
Okay. And so I wanted to make sure that, I don't, they wanted me to clean basically in front of all the North Avenue, all the back alley, which I think it has to be, it has to have some constraints.
I'm going to interrupt you because
Sure.
my question was really specific, and it was really like, when did you expect to have this sign? Now, I understand that you and the community association are working things out, but in order, one of the members brought up a good point. You're asking for us to approve something where you are still in communication or trying to work through an agreement with the community association. So in your mind, when do you think this would be finalized?
I think we still have to work on the terms, and I think that's, because I think there has to be some equitable way of working this out. I don't think you can charge me with the whole block. I don't think that's right.
And so, just so you know, the practical difficulty with approving the application presently is we don't know what those terms are that are going to be worked out. And so we want to condition, to the extent there's an agreement between you and, or your organization and the community, and I don't know how much negotiation you need to undertake in order to reach consensus on what those terms are. I mean, as Mr. Baumgartner mentioned, we typically do like to see things like security, lighting, no loitering, things like that. I don't know, as I sit here, what else may be particularly needed, that the community believes is particularly needed for the community.
I can say that I think this is an appropriate use, but I can't vote for it until I see an actual MOU.
May I add?
That's not for us to negotiate,
Sure.
that's the neighborhood association.
If I may, is this the standard you have MOU in every variance?
No.
No. Okay, why is it, on my case particularly, me alone?
Because you've been in negotiation with a community association.
But the thing is that I think some of the terms that's there, I don't think it is fair or equitable. I think it's something that has to be shared by all the parties of the block.
That's fine, that's
Yeah.
fine. Let me say this to you. If you are in negotiation with them and you think either they're being unfair or they think you're being unfair, we'd like you all to work that out, because you want to have, my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, it would be your position to have whatever agreement you reach with the community association to be incorporated into your approval.
I do not want, it's one of the reasons that we did object was that they wanted to make a restricted covenant that runs with the land. And that is something that we do not want. And that's still in there. So I don't think I think that is a given that we're not going to give in, because I don't think it's right to put a covenant that runs with the land and it filed with zoning. And I would not have objections with this if this is something that is done with every single case. If I am singled out because there's one chance that really you can get her to do all these things nobody else is doing, I don't know if that's an equitable situation.
Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we're going to hold up deciding on your property because we want to incorporate whatever it is that the community is suggesting. For properties like this and for projects like this, there are a subset of generally recognized conditions that we seek to place on it for the betterment of the community, just because no matter where it is, those are things that we believe are appropriate for that type of property. And what we find is that when the community presents and is in negotiation and talks with the owner of the property, they have an understanding of what it is that they would like to incorporate, so that they reach an agreement as to what it is. If you don't think you're going to ultimately reach an agreement as to, I mean, is it your contention that you don't anticipate? Let me finish.
Sure.
Because only one of us can speak at a time. That you don't anticipate reaching an agreement with the community based on where you are now. I mean, you can state that, and we would take the time to look at the agreement or look at what the issues are that have been raised. Obviously, nobody from the community is here. They have indicated that they're working towards a resolution on some of those issues with you. But we need some time to look at what at least has been raised.
Was this sent to you today, by any chance? Or was this sent?
So if I can step in, sorry to interrupt, but, so yes, it was sent to us today. The board does not need to have an MOU to make a decision. So it's not something that is required. I mean, it's part of the file, so the board can look at it, but you're not required to have one in order to get the approval. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that part at least.
And
But if there's something that you wanted if there's something that you wanted to make sure was in there, now would be the time to tell us, and the board can consider that.
No, I do not.
If you're not
because-
interested in the
no,
MOU,
we're-
then you can also do
Right now,
that.
I think I'm interested in getting this approved because I've been at this for 2 years. We have invested a lot of time, a lot of money into the property. I really want to finish it. I want to do something that would make the building come alive and our neighborhood look good. And I don't think anybody in the neighborhood would have objections to having what I'm planning right now. I think that's with the community board. The board that I'm facing is a tough board, and so I'm sure they have to go back and talk to them because it's a continuing process, not with this MOU only, but I'm sure there's going to be other issues. But when I do, and as you said, with the retail, I might have to come back again if it's beyond the realm of what you gave me the approval for. So I'm sure I have to talk to them at that time as well. But being a woman of color, I mind very much when these things are presented to me, that it's an equitable thing that is presented to everybody. That is not just me, because an Asian woman walking in can get her ones, this kind of thing, which I do not like. I can't say that's true, but that's the kind of thing that I feel like it's been pushed and shoved to me.
Would you be willing to install cameras and lighting to make sure that the building is properly lighted on the exterior front
Lighting,
and back?
definitely, but this is what I would like to do, because I need additional approval for lighting, and we have done the building, all the construction, all the permits, the architectural drawings. We're going to put that last, because we want to go and get a grant for that, and that's part of that. I would like to put lighting, definitely,
Okay.
but, yeah.
I'm going to stop you. Okay, so you'd like to put lighting. Would you like to put cameras or any kind of security cameras outside of the buildings in the front or the back? Are you willing to do that, yes or no?
If I had to do, I think it has to be, this is, I have a friend who's a developer. I had a talk out with him yesterday.
It's a yes or no question. Are you willing to put cameras on your building for the purposes of security? Yes or no?
I have a question for you. Cameras, as to where are you looking to, and what kind of cameras are you?
Security cameras. Cameras on the outside that can capture if someone is trashing your building, trashing the neighborhood, doing just a security camera.
I would like to see what other neighbors have, before I do that, because I'm not sure because if they have something like that on other neighbors' buildings, I wouldn't mind having mine if it works well.
Mr. Chairman, if I could
Yeah.
step in very briefly. So this is a very highly developed corridor. A majority of these properties have various agreements with the neighborhood association. The corner building, the building formerly known as the Kager building, I believe had a signed MOU as well. Things like lighting, security cameras, they're standard fare. So this board can require it. And then before you would get that UNO, you would have to put up those security cameras. So
You know what? I would like to see an MOU for the, because if they have signed something like
Sure.
that.
So
'cause
everything's
I
public.
haven't seen it.
Ma'am, so everything's public record. You can request any file you wish. You can look at any.
Is that part of the record that is on file on when you look at the internet?
It
because
would.
it wasn't there.
most likely would be in the paper file.
Oh, okay. It wouldn't be on the,
Yeah, and let me run back to something you raised. I think, based on your own experience, that in connection with this particular project, you may feel that there's been some history of singling you out and maybe having you jump through some
that's
additional
nothing new. Yes.
Well, trust me, we've been there, right? Nothing new for you, nothing new for me.
Yes.
But what I'm saying to you here as a board is we're not intending to do that. What we are raising issues, just as Mr. Baumgartner said. These are sort of standard fare for the type of project you have, where it is. We invariably almost always ask and want to see lighting, security, because no matter where your property is, it's a safety issue. And that's one of the things we are interested in making sure we promote is the safety with regard to particularly new projects. And so the reason I wanted to know where you were with regard to the MOU is if you were working towards an agreement, it would be good, it would be great if we could have the understanding of what that agreement is so we could incorporate those terms, which typically would incorporate things like the standard things like the lighting, security, things of that nature. If it's not likely that you will reach an agreement with those parties, then we can certainly do it on our own. But I wanted to get the background of what it is your understanding is of where you are with the community and what terms or conditions you could agree upon.
Mr. Chairman, I think the council would like to add something to this.
Okay. Are you here in support of the? No. Well, hold on. We don't know who you are. Please step forward.
I know who he is.
No, the record doesn't.
The record doesn't know he is.
State your name, please.
Councilman Stokes, 12th District.
Okay.
Charles Norfolk.
Are you here in support of this project?
No, I just spoke with the president of the community association, Mr. Lapidus.
Okay.
And he said he had an MOU about lighting, security, and trash. And they sent a letter to the board and said she's been very difficult and she's not responsive to their letters. He couldn't be here, but I didn't know this was on the docket. So I went out and spoke with him, and he said they've been waiting for that MOU, and she's been responsive. So I just want to let you know that it is in place about the lighting, the security, and the trash from Charles North. And they said they sent a letter, and she haven't responded. So
we have that. Thank you.
I have an email that I sent to him. So that's a misrepresentation as of yesterday as well. I already made my changes. He brought a response to the changes. Still have some of the covenants, which is, not acceptable. It's not someone being difficult. I'm not a difficult person.
And
I think it's unfair to categorize someone as being difficult without knowing that person.
Okay.
And aside from that, I think that's not right.
I'm not taking into account their characterization of you being difficult or not.
I think if he said that, then he has something coming. That's not right to say such things about somebody. When I was there for their meeting, we had affable discussions, and I think the MOUs and what the changes I have is not something that's unreasonable.
Okay, I don't know what those changes are because we don't have a signed MOU.
Well, if you, for example,
Stop. Which is the reason my fellow board member then queried you as to, are there certain things that you're willing to do? Lighting, security, cameras. Because again, these are standard fare. Your response to that was a bit on the fence as to
lighting,
let me
yes,
see.
but we still have to get the approval of the planning commission there and the architectural, I think, some other committee or something, because they need to approve it first. Same with the
I will
security.
put it to you this way.
Sure.
We ask specific questions in order for us to determine if we're going to approve or disapprove your application. So by me asking you questions specifically about lighting, specifically about security, especially because you want to have dwelling units in this building on North Avenue, so people will be living there. We want to make sure that, that you're having a building that the people who live there, that there are safe conditions in place for not you as the owner of the building and people who are the residents of the building and people who are in the neighborhoods of that association. So that is why I asked you very specific questions that you did not give me a specific answer to.
Ma'am, if I may, lighting I will, but I know I still have to go through another hoop for that. So lighting I will. Security cameras work from both sides. We used to have security cameras. People used to come and steal them and get them off our walls. And this is one of the reasons I felt it was ineffective. I thought it would be better for us to light the outside and light the back. Because that's one of Joe Square next door, who have a business, none of them have security cameras. but I want light my building because I do have dwelling units. So lighting, I don't have a problem with lighting. It's just the architectural committee have to approve my designs.
Well, the architectural committee doesn't necessarily have to approve and we're asking you about security cameras. We're not asking you about the style and so on and so forth that an architectural committee will have to approve. That is a basic concept.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think I have, I think misstated. Not the security, not that. Lighting has to be approved. Security cameras, from our experience in the past, it didn't do much of anything. And that's why I didn't want to be in a situation where, I'm constantly buying new cameras, because we did this before. If the board had suggested try one and see what happens, I'll do that in front of the building. I don't know where I'm going to put it. And then maybe in the back. I don't think anybody's going to come in the back.
I'll tell you what we'll do. We are going to make a determination based on your presentation and based on what our experience has been with regard to projects of this nature as to whether or not, given the information we have and the testimony we've been presented, whether or not it will be approved or not.
Yeah,
based
I
on
mean,
everything that we have.
if you want to make recommendations as to security based on all the experience that you had with this kind of
Which is
application.
what we do every day, every time
do
we're
that,
here.
Because, for me, the only security cameras that we had that didn't work. But if the board feels that is something that has to be in there, then please do that as part of the approval. As far as...
Make no mistake, we will do that if we believe
no,
that there's a condition.
no, please. That's, for me,
Ma'am,
yes.
we're in a proceeding that we have to wait for one person to talk before the next one talks.
Okay.
All
right.
right. Can you do
You
that
can't,
for me?
he's typing everything that we
Oh,
say.
I see. Okay, sorry about that.
This is quasi-court. You understand court, right?
I do.
So-
Okay, please.
So, what else, if anything, would you like to add to your application at this point?
Basically, I think for us, we intend to be a active part of the community, and we would like to do something that is positive. I think only thing right now I think we have is if it's the security cameras and also the lighting. I think I wouldn't have problems, but security cameras, I would like to start with minimum at this point and see whether it will work. And I can report back to the zoning, but
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. We will make determinations, if we're going to approve it, what the conditions will be.
oh, I see. Okay, that's fine.
I'd like to say something for the record.
Sure.
I've had this has nothing to do with you personally, and I've had a lot of experience helping negotiate MOUs, and the councilman was interested enough that he came down here to make a statement after talking to the president of the association, and I can say without an MOU, I, for one, will vote against this.
Well,
Okay.
okay, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, actually, no. Only thing I wanted to add was basically this is a building that is within the exception of more than, I think, 60 years. And so I'm not sure if the MOU overrides that. I mean, it's up to him. But if that's the case, that is the case. But actually, whatever recommendations the board makes as far as security cameras, I really know only one experience with that. So if the board decides to make it certain recommendations as appropriate, please do that. And then,
What the board will decide, to the extent it is geared towards approval, will not be recommendations, it'll be conditions that must be adhered to
okay.
in order for the project to move forward. Okay?
Not too many
One
conditions.
final question for you. When was the last time the building was in use and operated?
In Houston, there was a beauty nail salon, but was it like a long time ago?
I'm just trying to get a sense of how long ago it's been. And one of the things you raised was, we used security cameras some time ago. They didn't work.
I think
We're
it
in
was like about,
2020,
yeah,
And we used security cameras in 2020.
and it wasn't 2020.
I
No, it
understand.
was when we had tenants in the building, and I think that's like 8 years ago.
Okay.
10 years ago. I said around that time, but we didn't have a good experience with that.
Okay, thank you.
Right? Okay, thank
Good luck.
you.
Calling the case of 2020-06, 1923 Ashland Avenue, Nate Prettle. Good afternoon, Mr. Prettle.
Before I get into this, I want to request a postponement for the next case.
Okay, all right, 2020-07, 2325 Utah Place?
That's correct.
Okay, is that the matter for which you just had discussions with the parties?
It is.
Okay. Okay, you have some things you'd like to work out and continue to discuss?
That's exactly, I heard what the community members, we've been meeting with the Reservoir Hill Improvement Council, but there's some additional members here, and I think we want to have just a couple more weeks. I'll work with staff to reschedule it as soon as possible. But we'd like to continue to discuss, and there may be some changes to the plan before we present to the board.
Okay, so with regard to case number 2020-07, 2325 Utah Place, if there's no objection from the board, we'll postpone that
No
matter.
objection.
No objection.
Okay, now with regard to 2020-06, 1923 Ashland Avenue, this is a request to construct a 5-story mixed-use building. First floor is commercial uses with 4 off-street motor vehicle parking spaces, and second through 5th floors as 20 dwelling units. Is that correct?
That is almost entirely correct. There's been one small change that I'll describe once.
Okay. Could we swear the party, sir?
Raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Do we have any staff reports?
Yes, thank you. Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this particular proposal, being located in the Middle East Urban Renewal Area, is going to require design review for the architecture of the building that's being proposed, and it therefore requests that the applicant, as soon as possible, schedule meetings with the Urban Design and Architecture Advisory Panel for that purpose. The department also notes that this property was previously approved by this board for a 7-story office structure. The department considers a 5-story building much more compatible with the surrounding area and recommends that approval of this application, if granted, be subject to the condition that all construction and improvements are completed in accordance with development and architectural plans approved by the Department of Planning.
I'm sorry, Mr. French, what was it previously approved for?
A 7-story office structure.
Okay. Anything else? Mr. Prettle, having heard from planning, should we be favorably disposed towards this project or this application? Are those conditions acceptable to your client?
Absolutely.
Okay. Let me proceed with an initial question, and then you can speak to the answer as you do your presentation. There's to be an addition at this location, and is it attached or unattached? I think you probably understand the nature of why I'm asking.
So that's a yes and no. The proposal
That clarifies it all.
Yeah, I'm going to start with a little bit of background. The planning staff mentioned that this site was previously approved for a 7-story office building. Al Berry and myself were working on behalf of the Johns Hopkins Federal Credit Union about 2 years ago when they worked to rezone and then purchase this property for their new headquarters. And again, this was 7 stories. It would have included some leased space off-site for parking. There was several hundred office workers proposed for this location. They went through the Urban Design and Architectural Review Panel, as it was called at the time, and received design review. I'm not sure if it was final, but at least concept design review. And then ultimately decided that they didn't want this location as their new headquarters, and they were going to stay where they were. So the project didn't happen until, to introduce Mr. Scott Chen, he's one of the owners who purchased the property from Hopkins Federal Credit Union. And after that, they're looking at what was approved, you say, well, let's try to keep this proposal within the envelope that was already approved. And we ended up, after meeting with planning staff, reducing the building by 2 stories. And that was a direct recommendation from the planning's architectural staff. And so now the use has changed. All the uses proposed are permitted. There's 20 dwelling units, which is exactly the number that's proposed on the site. In regards to your question, Mr. Chairman, this tax lot includes a 2-story existing single-family dwelling, which is not part of this application in regards to use, but is on the property. And the building, as drawn now, will be attached to that, and that makes a difference for the setback. It speaks to the uniqueness of this property that, if you were to tear down that 1-story historic structure, you would meet the setback requirements. If you leave it there, you don't. So we were proposing to leave it there. We'll explore some options in the future if that requires coming back to the board. That's what we'll do. But otherwise, it's a relatively straightforward design. I know the design team for this project actually was working with planning staff as of this morning to schedule the UDAP process. We had a site plan review committee meeting last week, and that's in regards to the change. If I could submit these new plans, as a result of the site plan review meeting, we had to lose one off-street parking spot. The previously approved design had 0 off-street parking spots on site. This one now has 3 as opposed to 4. But really the intensity, both in terms of the size of the building and the use, are less than what it was in the 7-story office structure. So, and the units are, prospective tenants are people who work at Johns Hopkins. These are supposed to be market rate or workforce housing for employees of Johns Hopkins Hospital.
Who owns the single-family property?
It's this gentleman right here. Yeah, it is part of this
Is it
tax lot.
occupied?
It's not occupied at the moment.
That's to
Mr.
keep with the nature of the neighborhood?
Sorry, quick question. Is your 20 dwelling units include
Does
dwelling
not.
units in the existing structure?
It does
So it'll
not.
total be 22 dwelling units, or 21?
If that's what the use is, I think the owner's not sure what that property will be used for. So this, and that's, thank you for that question, does not include any proposed use for that. So if we have to, once we decide on it, and have to come back to the board, that's what we will do.
That's what I was going to say. Just know you'd have to come back.
Yes. And that's about, I'm happy to answer any other questions. I'd urge the board to approve this, and so we can continue with our design review process. And, we look forward to this site being, an asset to the community. And
I don't know if you said this already, but what type of commercial use would the bottom floor be?
it's a use that is permitted within this zoning district. Most likely office. It's going to ultimately be dependent on what type of tenant express interest in it once the building is finished, and we're not quite there yet. We're limited to about 15 commercial uses. If it's something that requires a conditional use by board approval, again, we would be back at the board. It's a little premature.
So on a similar note then, if those uses you do choose to put in there change the parking requirement, then again, you'd have to come back.
Correct. I would like, I think, the board to review this as if it were an office space. That's the most likely tenant at this time. We are proposing that is on the plan today for a commercial space.
The prior approval for the credit union had, I believe, you had mentioned an off-site parking arrangement.
That's correct.
Does this proposal have a similar arrangement or no?
So we do not have one as part of this proposal. In reality, the owners have been talking to the Ashland Garage across the street and plan to make available as many spots for lease as needed. Again, the way we thought about this is that hopefully people won't have cars. Again, there are a few on site, but we will have them available if need be. And I don't know how the board wants to document that. It wasn't really part of our application. We're here to ask for that variance, but we, if need be, we can have that memorialized. But that's the intention moving forward.
Thank you.
Any additional questions from the
No,
board?
I'm good.
All right. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Calling the matter, or case number 2020-08, 1001 North Charles Street. John Burnett for SM&P Architects. Okay, who is here to speak for you? I just need to get somebody's name and it's.
Charles Patterson, SMP Architects.
Okay, so you're here for SM&P. This is a request to construct an 8-story or 116-foot-high addition and use the entire premises as retail/restaurant and offices. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Could we swear the parties, please?
Raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Do we have any staff reports?
Yes, we have a letter from the Mount Vernon Belvedere Association dated February 7th. The Mount Vernon Belvedere Association strongly supports the application. That's it.
Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property is located in the Mount Vernon Historic District. Therefore, that designation requires that the plans for this proposed addition to the building be approved by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation. The applicant's plans received final approval from CHAP on August the 13th of 2019. Therefore, the Department of Planning recommends that approval of the application be subject to the condition that all exterior changes to the existing structure, including additions, alterations, and signage, are completed or installed in accordance with the authorization to proceed issued by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation. Thank you.
All right, sir, should the board be favorably disposed towards your project, are the conditions cited by Mr. French from planning acceptable?
It is.
Okay. Tell us about your project, sir.
We are working on 1001, 1003 North Charles, which is the old Grand Central building. We are proposing to remove the rear appendages of the building, and we are preserving the front facades of the building. But we are building an 8-story tower in the rear. We have gone through not only public hearings with the neighborhood, there were 3 open kind of forums for the neighborhood. We also met with MVBA, and we do have the letter from Stephen Shen. They were fully in support of the project, as well as a lot of the neighboring businesses. So we've gone through the 2 CHAP hearings, initially mass and scale and height, and that was approved. And then we went for design review in the second hearing. So we know that final details do need to be approved with the final building permit, but all of that has been approved. So, we would like to proceed with the project and move on.
Okay. Anyone else like to offer some input?
I'll speak.
Your name?
John Pannoni, one of the owners. John Pannoni, Pannoni. So as Chuck said, we've gone through the process, met with all of the relevant community stakeholders, and have continued to hold an open door policy for anyone else who would like to discuss the project. So that's been a consistent theme of ours that we're sticking to. Ultimately, we already have a development with more planned in the Mount Vernon area. We've done a very high quality job with it, which I think has really garnered our support from the MVBA. And our intent is to deliver, again, a very high quality product. We've made it clear to the neighborhood that we'll only be using retailers and restaurants that are authentic and original to the area, no chains. And we've told the neighborhood we're going to open the building when it's activated. So that way there's not just an empty new building sitting there, but there's life to it, there's energy, and there's increased safety. We have security cameras planned around the entire perimeter of the building as well as the interior, and a high level of security technology as well to further safety. So we're hopeful that we can receive approval on the project. We're excited to get going. We have leases signed for a number of the office floors already and are under LOI on any of the remaining floors, as well as the retail restaurants on the ground floor.
What project have you completed?
60 Steger Street. It's called City House. Yeah.
And you're going to incorporate the, 3-story facade into your project?
Correct. The existing facades on Charles and then the front part of Eager, for lack of a better term, will be shored up and retained for alignment with CHAP.
Okay. Anyone else?
Councilman Stokes, I truly support this. Mount Vernon support it. Landmark has made significant investments in that community with their own money, so I'm asking this board to approve it so they can move on this development piece.
Thanks, sir. Any questions from the board?
No.
All right. Thanks so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
All right.
Good luck.
Calling case number 2020-09, 2425 Barclay Street. Melissa Vega Wynn for Colossal Management Group. Good morning.
Great.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, that's right.
Hopefully
Yeah,
not
we're all
evening.
like, good morning. Not even paying attention.
Oh, yeah, well, see, I'm used to 8:15 at the courthourse, so I think I'm stuck there. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So we have this as a request to use as, the premises is 3 dwelling units, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, could we swear the parties, please?
Yes, raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Staff reports, please.
Yes, thank you. Planning Department reviewed this application. Based upon records that were available to the department, there appeared to have been issued to a previous owner of this property a permit to use it as a single-family dwelling in 2015, which basically reverted it away from a previous use before that, which may have been multifamily dwelling, which was in place as of 2010. The essential problem then was that because the property was given the status of a single-family dwelling in 2015, the zoning code then and the zoning code now require that any conversion of a single-family dwelling to a multifamily dwelling in this particular zoning district, which is R8, be approved by a conditional use ordinance of the mayor and city council. Therefore, the Department of Planning recommends disapproval of the application because the zoning code does not authorize the board to approve conversion of a single-family dwelling to a multifamily dwelling in the R8 zoning district where this property is located. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. What can you tell us about this issue in 2015 with the permit being issued for the single-family dwelling?
Sure. So I represent the owner. I am his agent by management agreement. And this is Brian Wynn, my business partner, and he represents like the property overseeing for the construction side. This owner actually purchased the property in December of 2019. So we don't have any relationship with the prior owner. And in fact, the 2010 approval for the 3 units and then subsequent 2015 approval, that 2015 approval to convert it back to single unit, there was no work done to the property. So upon purchasing the property, we have pictures of the walkthrough, and I think it was dated December 4th, actually. It was in dilapidated condition, but indeed as a 3 unit. So to this day, no work has been done despite the use and occupancy permit reflecting single use. You have those pictures with you? I do, yes. And we have actually, these are probably the most straightforward photos, which shows, if you look at the front, it's 3 meters, and then 3 distinct units, 3 distinct bathrooms, 3 distinct kitchens, 3 distinct beds.
Again, the date that these photos were taken?
Those are December 4.
Of 2019?
2019, yes. Mm-hmm. We're assuming that the prior owners who wish to actually upgrade the property, be it 3 unit or single use, just fell short of funds. We have respectively from this owner about 40 grand per unit to contribute to the renovation, which we already have teams that are ready to actively move. So we project that this project could be done in as short as 6 months or less.
Have you met with the community association?
There's no community association that we're aware of. We did post, and we are present around that area. We haven't been approached by anyone. It seems just to be a residential area, but no formal community association that we're aware of.
Direct question to staff. Given the issuance of the permit for a single-family dwelling, but the apparent absence, based on testimony, of the actual conversion of 3 dwelling units to single-family, what is the showing that must be made here by the applicant?
The board would need to find that the property was never legally or physically reduced down to single family. That could be done via evidence showing fixtures that would indicate 3 separate dwelling units. There was a prior approval by this board in 2010,
Correct.
I believe, for 3 dwelling units. That was likely I don't want to speculate, but that was likely when a property was changing hands, they were trying to continue that 3-dwelling unit use. There's no evidence beyond the 2015 use and occupancy permit for reducing it down to single family. If the board is satisfied from the evidence submitted that the property was never actually taken back to single family, it could authorize the variances. If the board does not find that, the board would not have the authority to convert a single family to a multifamily in an R6 district.
Mr. French, what's the condensed version of what you said?
Very much the same. The department has the record that in 2010, this board approved 3 dwelling units in this property. The record that is online, basically, that the department had access to showed issuance of a permit applied for in 2014 by the prior owner, issued in 2015 to take it to single-family status. And then, of course, there's this appeal today.
Okay, thank you.
I do have I did pull the public permits, which would, if indeed it was converted and code work was performed, you would see on record permits for those changes, and there's no evidence of that. There is a permit that was pulled for gas line testing and replaced water heater, but again, no indication that there was reduction of the units.
Okay. Is that something you'd like to hand up for the record?
You may see, sure. Thank you. We also do have, I have a boatload of things here, but I do have the proposed budgets per unit just to indicate that we are indeed intending to move forward so long as approval is granted.
Again, if there's anything else you'd like to add for the record, hand it up.
There you go.
How many projects have you completed in your area?
So this, again, is my business partner. We have a business model that rolls over for those investors that are interested in maintaining tenancies. I run the management side. I have about 150 units that I manage in Baltimore. Last year, we ran through close to about $10 million in renovations for these investors. This investor in particular owns currently 10 units, and 3 are due to close at settlement tomorrow. So he is well engaged in continuing to uplift the city by way of renovating and occupying properties.
Thanks.
Okay. Any further questions from the board?
Nope.
All right. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys. Sure.
Okay. Calling the case of 2020-17, 808 Guilford Avenue, Stephen Johnson. I'm sorry, did I miss one? You know what? Let me hold on that one.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Let me call 2020-15, 2401 Aruna Avenue. Apologies, sir. I just took it out of order, sorry. Mr. Jawad Sheikh?
That's correct, that's me.
Okay, sir, this is a request to use this premises, use a portion of the premises, the ground floor, midsection for 15 child daycare center, and use portion of the ground floor rear as an office for a tag and title service, and also to continue the first and second floors as dwelling units. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Could we swear the party, please?
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Before we get to staff reports, I understand we have a posting issue.
Opposition.
We have opposition as well. Okay. Are you here in opposition?
Yes. Oh,
Who else is here in opposition to this matter? Now, all folks come up when we call the case that you're here for.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we hear it all at once. I'm sorry, say again. Okay.
oh, they need to be sworn.
Yeah, we have to do a little bit more swearing in for whoever's going to be, whomever's coming up. Please do so now, because you have to be sworn.
You can stay on this side.
Oh, okay.
You stay here.
Yeah, you're that side. You're that mic. Come on up. Now, let's just re-swear all the parties.
All right, raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. Preliminarily, you need need to address an issue regarding the posting of this particular property. Staff could state what our information is with regard to that posting.
Specifically, we received an email this February 5th indicating that there are pictures attached they took on the morning of 2401 Aruna Avenue. As you can see from the photographs, there's no signage concerning the upcoming zoning hearing displayed. Here are the photographs.
When were these taken?
February 5th, at least this email suggests that these photos were taken on February 5th. Mr. Sheikh?
Yes.
What can you tell us about the posting of this particular property?
On the evening of January 20th is when I posted the notice. I was made aware that since my property touches both streets, I have to post one on each side. So, as per the guidelines, I posted one sign on Aruna Avenue on the porch, and the porch wraps around on Wheeler Avenue, and I posted the sign on Wheeler Avenue side on the porch as well. I do remember it was extremely windy that night. I'm not sure if that led to anything. I had to go out of town after that. I left on the 22nd. I had not been to the property since, and when I came in today, I learned that the posting was not.
When is your understanding that the property was posted? What period of time?
I posted it on the 20th. I posted the sign.
January, and
January.
to your knowledge, it's still posted today?
That's my knowledge, and when I came in today, I learned that that was not the case. So I'll have to speak with the tenants that live in the building to see if they took it down, or I'm honestly not sure what exactly happened, and I apologize, for this.
Okay. Well, let me have you seen these photographs?
I have not.
All right. These are, let me show to you what's been purported to have been taken on February 5th.
Yes.
Which would be within the period that the property is required to be posted. And I don't see a posting there. Is that the property?
That's the property. One post was put on this banister, and the other one was put on that side on the evening of the 20th of January.
When you say put on the banister, what did you attach it with?
It was attached with, packing tape to make sure that it wouldn't come off. But like I said, it was extremely windy that day and the following few days. So I'm not sure if the wind caused it, or I'm not sure if somebody took it down. But I'm just learning about this when I came in today.
But you would agree that, at least based on this presentation, it's not posted as required?
Completely understand.
Okay. Under that circumstance, we are not in a position to proceed. I guess, does that result in a postponement? And I apologize for you folks being here, but if the property's not posted, he does have an opportunity. If he wants to be heard, it's his application. So he's got to comply with the posting requirements. If it's not complied with, then he can't go forward with the matter. The procedural way that we deal with such a circumstance is to postpone the matter, reissue the posting notice, and have the applicant then repost for the period of time that's required. And at that time, he will get a new date for the hearing to be held, so long as that property is posted for the required period of time. And then you may all return, to be heard if you're still in opposition to the matter. Sir.
Quick question. So again, Councilman Bullock, and I appreciate having the opportunity to be here today.
Sure.
I understand what you're saying in terms of the posting. However, having the community being heard, because their opinion's not going to change based upon the posting. So would it be possible to have their complaints registered so they don't have to come down and waste or spend another 2 hours or so out of their days when they've already come to a conclusion around how they feel about this project going forward?
I appreciate that, but I don't know that that's possible. We either go forward procedurally in a position where we're able to go forward, or the matter has to be held. We can't take testimony piecemeal to sort of preserve for the record, because that would certainly give the applicant an opportunity to present, and he is unable to do that because it's not posted. There may be additional individuals who would like to be heard as well, and that's the reason for the posting. So if it wasn't met, according to the at least presentation inadvertently, then he certainly has the right to support his application by posting as required. And so unfortunately, we're not going to be able to hear partial testimony.
Do you all
for purposes of preserving.
represent a specific community association?
Yes, my name is Samantra Brightful, president of Evergreen Protective Association. And we also have John Carrington, the neighborhood is president of the Neighborhood Association, Bridgeview.
And these are all the affected neighbors.
Can I make a suggestion? I mean, I feel your pain coming down here and not being able to testify, but I'm working with your councilman and the neighborhood association. You could develop a statement on behalf of everyone who's here, or any, okay.
My question was, how, we have a petition, we had a meeting, we are very nosy in our neighborhood. So as soon as we found out about it, we sent a message out, and I had a meeting at my church on January 30th, and we had petitions, and we have over 100 petitions.
Okay.
Well, that's
Sure,
do I have to get these re-signed again?
If you secured signatures for a particular position,
We can take them, right?
And Mr. Chairman, the board can take written testimony at any time. You can mail it in, email it, fax
and
it.
send it in ahead of the hearing.
Absolutely.
We will have that for the record
Correct.
to review.
Yeah, no, you
Fair
don't
enough.
have to redo it all
Yep.
over
That's
again.
fair.
And I also want to give you this photo. Those same people, those same.
Okay, these are additional photos. Is this supporting the issue of the posting?
Yeah, the date is on that tab.
Right, and I think we've established that posting has not been met satisfactorily. That's fine, that's fine.
And you're certainly welcome to come down again if you find the time or whatever.
Well, I'll definitely be here.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ma'am, you're welcome to speak, certainly not on the record, but you're welcome to have any discussion you like with the party. Trust me, if it goes into if you hand it up, it's going to the official record.
Okay. We will hold on to these, thank you.
What's the community association?
This is
Evergreen Protective
Okay.
Association.
Evergreen Protective Association. We have a current president,
Okay.
president of Bridge Green Lawn.
Let's go off the.
Yeah,
on
let's
the
just,
record, 'cause
we can get off the record. This matter, let me just formally state what it's going to be, and we can get that information. Case of 2020-17, 808 Guilford Avenue. Nope, sorry. I keep going to the property. 2020-15, 2401 Aruna Avenue has been postponed. It will be reposted and a new date provided, and all the parties can come back. So we're off the record on that. So we have Evergreen Protective Association and another Bridgeview Green Lawn. Okay.
For that new posting, if you could contact our office to get that new posting notice, and you'll pick the new hearing date, particularly given if you want to have time to meet with the community and all of that.
Sure. Just have a quick question about the posting. I understand it can't be 10 feet above the ground. How do I prevent, somebody removing the sign?
Zip ties.
Was literally like zip ties. That's why I asked you how it was posted.
Yeah, something beyond tape.
And one thing to state, even not for the record or for the record, one of the challenges we have is that I think the conversation is around posting, but it's not actually about communicating with the community. And it is not in keeping with the character of the community. So there's been no desire to actually have a conversation with the community, communicate with them, or even have a project that's in keeping with the standards of the community.
And I apologize for that. When I purchased the building about a little less than a year ago, I asked the prior owner if there was a homeowner association, and he told me there was not. So I am very sorry that I did not reach out to you guys.
And here we go, and that's the purpose for why we're here today.
I would like to talk to you guys, obviously.
Right?
Yeah.
68 years. So I don't
Okay.
know how he said
Well, we all
He said
now
a lot
know.
of things. He told me a lot of things that weren't true.
We
Thank
now
you all
know.
for
All right.
Thanks for
being
your time.
interested enough
Thank
in
you,
the
sir.
neighborhood,
Oh,
coming
we will.
down. Appreciate it.
Okay.
I know that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, calling the case of now, 2020-17, 808 Guilford Avenue. Mr. Stephen Johnson. Mr. Johnson? This is a request to add live entertainment to existing church with office and art studio located in a portion known as 836 Guilford Avenue. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Can we swear the parties, please?
Raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Do we have any staff reports?
Yes, we have a letter from the Mount Vernon Belvedere Association dated February 7th. They write that the association supports the application for live entertainment with the contingency that the permission for live entertainment be restricted to the name and lease of the applicant and current occupant of the space, known as 836 Guilford Avenue. That's the end of the report.
That is similar to, before Mr. French goes, that's what they asked the last time, exactly the same, that the conditional use follow the person and not the establishment. Okay.
Thank you. Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that there was a lack of detail concerning a couple of things specifically. One was relating to off-street parking to be provided during entertainment events. The other was details concerning the actual security service that would be used and what the nature of the security would be during events. The department is recommending that the applicant provide some of that additional information to the board at this time. The department recommends that approval of this application, if granted, be subject to these conditions, in addition to conditions which the board may establish. 1, a copy of the use and occupancy permit for the premises must be kept on the premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. 2, a copy of the written approval by the board of the live entertainment provided on the premises, including details of any restrictions or limitations on the live entertainment provided, must be kept on the premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. And 3rd, a copy of all other permits and licenses required pursuant to the written approval of the board must be kept on the premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Having heard from planning with regard to at least the latter portion of what he said, are those conditions acceptable too?
Well, absolutely.
Okay. If you could tell us about your project, speaking in particular to the items raised by planning in terms of
what we do and everything. Yes. How you doing? It's a pleasure being here. It's also my partner, Adrian Waters. We are a arts and media production studio. We have a TV show on ABC and My TV network that airs every week. We do positive taping. We do have referral letters from ABC as well as My TV network stating the type of events, the type of content that we tape with a live studio audience. We also have a recommendation from our church. We have church service. I'm a minister. Adrian, we're also part of the same church. We're also part of the ministerial staff. So everything that we do is positive. We are not a club. Like, it's very positive, family-oriented arts that we do there. We also have Councilman Stokes, who's also the councilman of our district. He shared to me that he had to step out, but he also gave us a letter of recommendation, as well as you have the community. We also have another letter from Councilman Leon Pinkett.
Are these letters in the file?
No, sir. I have it on me right now. I can pass it to you now. Okay. Submit it to y'all. We also have another letter from Dr. Marcus Allen, who has a suite inside of the shopping center. He's been there for over 15 years, and he stated in his letter that since he's been there, he's never seen something so quality and such upstanding people. And he said that he loved what we were doing for the shopping center, and that's where our conversations with Mount Vernon came in, because they seen what we're doing and what we're putting together, and they feel that this is a perfect fit for Mount Vernon and upgrading what's going on in our city, but through media and through other different production shows. And Adrian, you talk about Duro from Steve Harvey.
We also...
Sorry, state your name again, sir.
Adrian Waters. I'm the co-owner of the building.
Okay.
We also have a letter from...
just Adrian, I just want to double check. Just get it right.
Yes.
Just how you spell it.
Adrian. We also have a letter from Daryl Smith, who is a native Baltimorean, former MLB baseball player, who now has a foundation and an organization. He works with kids. One of the other things that we do is we work with kids in the community through the arts, teaching them arts and media, teaching them music production. We have a group that we've cultivated ourselves called No Question, a group of young kids, and when we pass these letters, we can pass that along to you, that are doing things at the building along with the TV tapings and things like that.
What's the name of your TV show?
Well, Stevie is the creator of the TV show. I'm one of the producers. The TV show is called The Platform. It comes on ABC.
I'm sorry, what was it?
It's called The Platform. So it's basically, you know, they interview local artists, try to give them a spotlight, all inspirational type entertainment.
And what's the name of the church?
Okay. So the church that we both attend is called New Harvest Ministries. That's where we have a letter from.
Talk about
And Pastor Patterson, his church is called the Lord's Church of the Harvest. They actually occupy our building on Sundays. They rent our building on Sundays, but that's not the church we attend, but they're like friends.
Okay.
Can you just clarify, this space that you want to do this in, is it operating as a church now? Or, because this has to add live entertainment to existing church.
So there's a church that just rents our building on Sunday mornings. They're kind of like in between spaces.
And the church that rents the building, is it affiliated with what you guys are doing or no?
We've known the pastor of the church for a while, so when he was leaving his other building, he said he just needed a place to, you know, have his parishioners worship on a temporary basis. So
That's a no.
Right, so
Yeah.
if that pastor finds another space, that would be the only church that's operating at that premises, is that correct?
At this time, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the permit history for this property is complicated because it is a shopping center, and the uses are not always delineated per suite or tenant space.
Yes, sir.
But I believe that this space has a current last authorized use as a church with office and art studio. So as far as we can tell, the current use and occupancy permit would be church, office, art studio.
Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
So the live entertainment will be part of your television production?
Can I just,
Yes, sure.
just to clarify, so since Stephen and I are both ministers, even though that one church may leave, we've had several prayer breakfasts and church events at the building, so that's something that we want to continue. As far as the live entertainment, the issue that we've been experiencing is when we're doing these live TV tapings, sometimes it includes, you know, a band before we go to commercial, different things like that, or what have you. So, you know, the officers would come around and they would see what was going on. Sometimes they would see the cameras out, the lights, but they still would say, if you have a DJ, if you have a band, this is considered live entertainment. You have to up your permit. So we had already been in communication with the community board, and they, as you know, they endorsed us. And so this is more the stuff that we want to do.
What's the capacity for the church?
It's 280.
280?
Yes, sir. And just so you know, what we have going on with ABC and My TV Network, as well as the cable network as well, it's time slots. So I actually have 4 shows that pass through. So one, and I have pictures just so y'all see what we're doing. One is called The Platform. Another one is called Truth or Perspective. We have another one called Drastic Measures. So they rotate. So we're constantly doing different tapings. We have another show coming out this summer called My Mom on TV, which is like a reality show, but it's like allowing, we say that Baltimore does not lack talent, it just lacks exposure. So what we're doing is giving them exposure through all forms of the art.
And you agree with the stipulation from Mount Vernon Belvedere?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, sir. And just so you say, he did speak about the security aspect. We do have a licensed security company who provides our security called Providing Family Services. So they're the ones that provide any security for that. Most of the things that we have is over by 11, 12 o'clock the latest, because most of the people that we are associated with, they because of the climate of Baltimore, they don't want to be out late. So to make sure that if it's feasible for what they're doing, we let them out. They're out and is a decent time. This is a TV studio, so it's not like it's, again, we're not a club. Yes.
So are you willing to limit your use of live entertainment to midnight?
Oh, yes, that's fine.
11?
No, I would rather say midnight to 1, the latest, but whatever y'all recommend is
Your application says 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. Sunday through every day. So is that accurate?
That is not accurate. Definitely not 10 a.m. because most of the things that we do started at 7 o'clock.
7 a.m.?
Oh, no. I'm sorry. when I filled the application out, it just said different hours of operation. So we do a lot of things. So we also have classes as part of the office use. So we teach students from middle school to high school students how to draw cartoons, and they animate it, and we have classes for them. So it's literally throughout. I have a picture of it. It's one of the things that
I'm going to just stop you
I'm
because
sorry. Yes, ma'am.
the application says indicate the hours of operation for the live entertainment or dancing proposed.
Sure.
So what are your hours for live entertainment, hours and days of the week?
If I can answer, I know he filled out the application, but just to be clear, a lot of the things that we're doing, that we're talking about that are great and positive, don't really make a lot of income. So part of the reason why they wanted us to also do the live entertainment is if we ever were to lease out the building for any type of event, I know that it has to be over by 2 a.m. But we still have like a mandate. We don't just want to rent the building out to anyone. We're not a club. We're not trying to have that type of energy or atmosphere. So that's probably why it said that, but we're not opposed to limiting closing early, because whenever we do things, we're usually out of there early anyway.
So if you were to lease out this space to someone, I mean, I know you say you guys aren't a club, but if someone wanted to come in and have a nice party, is that who you would lease this space out to until 2 o'clock in the morning?
No. So many of the things, and I also have pictures as well. Like we did plays and different things like that. So
You
that's.
referenced a lot of things that you have, pictures, letters, and I haven't seen any of it.
Oh yeah, sure.
If you're gonna make it
Yes.
part of the record, you gotta-
It would help. Yes. Here goes some more as well. Here goes, and you had the kids for your question. Here goes some pictures. I have another one. Sorry.
And the pictures are fine, but just so you know, what is of critical importance to us is when this property intends to be in operation with this particular use. So it's pretty amorphous, with the understanding that you have the ability to rent it out to someone. But we want to know, how long is this property going to be used for live entertainment on a given night?
Sure.
So when's it going to end?
Sure, I understand. I was confusing the application because it says hours of operation. I wasn't thinking of just live entertainment. So the hours of operations would be from, we'll say from 7 p.m. to the latest 1 a.m.
Well, it's your building. You can have it.
Yes,
You
yeah.
operate in the building during the day?
Yes, but not as live entertainment, not as band.
Separate apart from live entertainment. I
Yes.
mean, the application has a general operation time period and a
Sure.
live entertainment
Gotcha.
time period.
Mhm.
But just so I know, you're using the property during the day or?
Yes, yes, we are.
Okay.
Yes, we are.
And now, with regard to live entertainment specifically,
Yes.
what's the box you're going to put this in?
Really from, I would say on Saturdays. Saturdays could refer to as in 12 noonish all the way to 1 a.m. Depending on if we have something early or later, depending on how we schedule our tapings. During the weekday, it would be from, I would say, 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. as well. And by 2 a.m., that's everybody clearing out, it's including cleanup staff and everything as well.
What did Mount Vernon Belvedere ask for?
The neighborhood association asked to, if the board was favorable towards the application, if the board approved the application, to attach the use to the operator and not the land itself, so that if the applicant were to go somewhere else, that the live entertainment would follow that business and not follow the actual tenant space itself. So any future tenant would have to come back to the board for the live entertainment use.
But they could lease to outside organizations.
Well, I was going to offer a suggestion that the board could place a condition that would prohibit third-party operators. So you could potentially rent it out for a wedding, but you couldn't rent it out to a party promoter that would bring in everything.
Sure.
With something like renting out a space for a wedding, the tenant or the property owner maintains control of the space. So it's still their space.
Absolutely.
They would control security.
Could you give us the language for that?
Sure.
Thank you.
If it's also okay, though, I submitted the pictures, but I didn't submit the referral letters as well.
Very well, thank you. So you're talking 1 a.m. I think we're gonna cut that down.
Is there anything else in this shopping center that's open until 2 o'clock in the morning?
Well, there was another art studio that I believe was approved from you all, but the community association thought that they were us, so they did not stop it thinking it was us, and then when they found out it was not us, then they were like, whoa, let's rewind that, because they know exactly what we're doing and all the other things that we are doing.
Is that Dunkin' Donuts open 24 hours?
No, sir. Dunkin' Donuts is closed at 8:30. What I would tell you is that Dunkin' Donuts is very happy that we are open.
I'm sure.
Like, we've become one of their biggest
And there's a
fans.
convenience store on the other end of that shopping mall. Are they open past 10 o'clock?
I believe that they close at 9 p.m., if I'm not mistaken.
And the other uses in there, you had mentioned the doctor's office. I think it's a podiatrist.
Yeah,
I'm not
podiatrist, yes,
sure.
Dr. Marcus.
There's an office or two. There used to be a real estate brokerage. I can't recall the other uses of that shopping
There's a carryout.
center.
Is that still
There's
there?
like a copier, printer.
Yep.
kind of
Yeah.
place.
Yes.
Is there Young's carryout still there?
Yes, sir.
And what time
Yes,
does that
ma'am.
place close? It's fine. What time does that place close?
They close, I believe they close like 10.
Okay.
10 o'clock, 10 or 11 sometimes. Well, really, since we've been there, everybody has been changing their hours because it's more business and it brings more revenue to the space.
Okay.
Yes.
You said you work with students. Do you work with specific schools, or how do you?
We do not, although I actually have a meeting on Friday with PTA because of the animation classes that we're doing. They really want to put this inside the some of the things. They want to partner up with some of the school systems. Councilman Pinkett actually brought us out last week to introduce some of the things that we're doing for some of the kids. The thing about it is that we're careful how we say the youth, because we do not do youth parties, because we find out that they bring drama.
It's a lot.
Yes. So what we do is very structural. It's very concrete in what's going on, but they are not parties. And you see the picture of was a youth band called No Question. No Question performed and got noticed from Steve Harvey. So there's a whole lot of things that we're doing with them. We're really showing how if you bring the arts up correctly in the right way, that it can really benefit positively to the kids. And again, the Mount Vernon, as well as the counselors and all that, they've seen what we're doing. ABC seen what we're doing. So we're becoming more involved with the community and functions as well.
Any further questions
No,
from
I'm
the board?
Nope.
Is there anything else you'd like to add or hand up to make a part of the record?
I would like to just add one thing. I heard the gentleman say in the beginning, before we started all of the hearings for today, that the actual approval, if we get it, may not come for like 30 days. We have had a couple of TV tapings that we had scheduled. These are not like open to the public. Again, we're not a club. These are not a party. We've essentially been not doing anything, waiting for this hearing. And if it would be okay with the board, the kids, no question, they've been rehearsing since like Thanksgiving time for like a recital that they actually had on the schedule, had on the books. It's being taped. It's going to be aired on TV. That's supposed to happen next Friday for their parents, friends at school, and stuff like that. It's not really open to the public. It's not like it was a ticket associated with it, just to try to help them raise some money for instruments, and they have T-shirts and stuff like that. We did not want to be out of order. We've canceled everything and not had anything leading up to this meeting. But Stevie wanted to had a taping of the platform scheduled, and we had a taping for these kids. And besides that, we don't mind waiting for the letter. But I was just going to humbly ask, because they put so much work into it. They have their family, friends coming. If that would be okay. Again, like I said, not open to the public and being taped for TV next week.
We'll take that in consideration for sure.
Thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Gentlemen.
That's the docket.
That, I believe, concludes the docket unless I've missed a case. All right.
I think
Off
that's
the
the
record?
only one we have to talk about.
You off the record?
Yes.
We didn't used to.
Okay. Matters to talk about.
May I say something before we start?
Of course.
I've worked with the BMZO for such a long time through city council, neighborhood associations. I think we're really fortunate to have these two as staff.
Oh, absolutely.
You guys know everything. Everything.
Even though Derek's not going to sleep for the next year, it's okay. We appreciate
I would be
you,
here in
we really do.
sweats. Where are you? A suit? You have a new baby. I'm here in sweats and I'm not you. I don't have any babies.
I get all dressed up.
Me too.
Let's talk about this.
These are my fancy workout pants.
All right, let's go.
Let's talk about.
Wait, where'd you start?
We're this is talking
This is discussion
before we vote. North Avenue. 20/20/05.
29 to 31 West North Avenue, the mixed-use project.
Okay, discussion. Gotcha.
Well, once again, I'll say if they don't have an MOU, I'm voting against them.
Okay. I hear what you're saying.